Sonic Adventure was an incredibly impactful and revolutionary game for so many reasons. But today, we're not going to be talking about the gameplay, story, or anything of that manner. In today's video, I want to talk about one of the biggest reasons this game had such a major impact on the video game industry as a whole, and those shockwaves are even still felt to this day. That is, its soundtrack, and more specifically, the development process behind this legendary OST. Before Sonic Adventure's release in 1998, there was a small handful of games that had one or maybe two full vocal tracks, including Metal Gear Solid, Final Fantasy VIII, Street Fighter III, Tales of Phantasia, Sonic Team's own Burning Rangers, and Sonic CD. I do want to mention that Sonic R did have full vocal tracks for its game, but since it was stranded on the Saturn, much like Burning Rangers, it didn't get the attention a big mainline release would receive, like Sonic Adventure. Before we move on though, I'm not claiming that Sonic Adventure caused the sole rise of vocal tracks in video games, as there was a lot more going on with the jump to 3D and making more cinematic games, but it is certainly evident that SA1 was the game to truly usher in this future era of full-fledged vocal tracks being acceptable in video games. An impact that can be seen to this date. This all wouldn't be without Sonic Adventure's first, relatively risky step at the time into having a full-fledged vocal track for each of the main characters, let alone these songs spanning completely different genres that define each character's respective personality. With that out of the way, let's get talking about Sonic Adventure. Since this was the first true mainline 3D title for the Sonic franchise, that was also going to be taking advantage of the capabilities the brand new Dreamcast offered that weren't available on previous consoles like the Saturn. One of those capabilities being new sound assets. As Jun Sonoy stated, the Dreamcast allowed us to include a large amount of songs. Also, the songs could play seamlessly on a repeat by using new middleware. Thanks to advancements in technology, we could do what we wanted to do. This comes from a sit-down interview with director Takashi Iizuka, and at the time, first-time lead sound director Jun Sonoy, which I have yet to find anywhere on the internet, talking about the development of SA1 and its soundtrack. Since I am a giant dork, I was able to get my hands on this with the purchase of Sonic Adventure's vinyl printing this past summer from Limited Run Games that includes this super cool booklet containing the interview, artwork of the characters, and some awesome extra goodies. While Sonoy was the lead sound director, he brought in some other very influential people that helped shape the vocal tracks and overall soundtrack for this game, being Fumi Kumatani, who wrote the lyrics, composed, and arranged the theme songs for Amy, Big, Tikal, Gamma, and the Chow theme, and many of the other level tracks, which we'll actually get into for part 2 of this video. Her first project with Sega was composing and arranging the OST for 1996's Nights into Dreams, and while her last contribution to the franchise was in 2010 with Sonic Color's Wii and DS ports. Her music has still been used and rearranged all the way up to Forces, and obviously with the upcoming Sonic Colors remaster. The other big player in Sonic Adventure's vocal and overall soundtrack was Kenichi Tokoi, who wrote the lyrics, composed, and arranged Knuckles' track, Perfect Chaos Revival, which by the way is the dramatic track that plays in the first half of the Perfect Chaos fight before Open Your Heart, along with a lot of the other stage tracks. He started with Sega on 1996's Daytona USA Championship, and is still currently working with Sega, with his most recent project being a Japanese-only PSVR game called Space Channel 5 VR Kinda Funky Newsflash. Last but certainly not least, the legendary Jun Sonoy, who is credited with writing the lyrics, playing guitar on, composing, and arranging Sonic, Tails, Biggs, Chaos 0, 2, 4, and 6's themes, along with Open Your Heart and more, which we'll get into more later on. He also performed and arranged just about all guitar instances in this game, from the stages to even the little jingles. It's absolutely incredible. Also, all three main composers that worked on the vocal tracks all had some overlap with helping each other out, even on Open Your Heart, with Sonoy obviously taking the lead on that track though. He really tried to use rock as the backbone per se, as to what the base of the vocal tracks and overall album would be off of. Sonoy chose rock as the musical foundation to really differentiate Sonic from his competitors at the time, and you can tell just how proud and passionate he was about this soundtrack. Something rock. It is one of the sound concepts of this time. In order to decide on something new and different from the Sonic so far, I did not follow the path up to the present. I am proud of being able to deliver the real songs appropriate for Sonic of the real world. As we get started with the vocal tracks, I want to start off with a quick quote from Sonoy when asked about what kind of atmosphere and sound he was aiming for with Sonic Adventure, in the same interview from the vinyl. I wanted to create vocal songs with English lyrics for each character to give them more prominent personalities. I thought the characteristic intros were necessary for every theme song. The first 3 seconds are particularly important for me, and I feel they were implemented in the game quite nicely. I can 100% agree with that, as right off the bat, we're introduced to this gnarly guitar riff performed by Sonoy in the beginning of Sonic's theme, It Doesn't Matter. Not only is it instantly recognizable, as Tokoi said in the Sonic Adventure Songs with Attitude vocal album, when I listen to this intro, it is exactly Sonic. To me, this song completely oozes Sonic's free-spirited personality, which can be displayed in the lyrics with lines shown on screen, also written by Sonoy. The team brought in vocalist Tony Harnell, who is an American rock singer most commonly known for his work with Norwegian rock band TNT in the 1980s, and would continue to help Sega out with vocals for future games like Sonic Adventure 2 and Generations for both renditions of City Escape. Bassist Naoto Shibata and drummer Hiro Hama were brought in to, play the bass and drums. It would also work on Tails' theme and Open Your Heart, along with Stan Katayama, who did the mixing for Sonic and Tails' themes, along with Open Your Heart too. It Doesn't Matter is personally one of my favorite songs, and to me will always encapsulate Sonic. It uses a very heavy, hard rock approach, with that nasty upfront electric guitar from Sonoy, who, funny enough, when discussing the album on the same SA1 album commentary, said that he recorded the guitar solo, which is located at the end of the second chorus, at 6 in the morning. Along with Harnell's high, clear, potent voice and vocal range, which fleshes the song out like no other, making an excellent introduction to who Sonic was coming into the 3D realm. Putting a fantastic foot forward, It Doesn't Matter would go on to be remixed in SA2, along with other games like Sonic and the Black Knight, Generations, and even the same game with the Twinkle Circuit song being a remix of its chorus. Also, a pretty cool tidbit, when Sonoy was asked what his favorite track he made in the entirety of Sonic Adventure was, he said, "It Doesn't Matter" is at the top of the list in terms of my own vocal tracks. Believe in Myself is my second favorite vocal track, and I think it does a phenomenal job reflecting the arc Tails goes through in the game, about realizing if he just tries to be like Sonic, he'll never improve himself and turn into his own person. Kumatani similarly favored the song, saying, "I also like this song so much that I think I definitely brought this song to number 1 if I listened to the CD as an outsider." Believe in Myself follows a similar hard rock basis blended with pop a tad more, which can be attributed to the beautiful lead vocals of California native Karen Blake, who is known for her own albums, along with working on some tracks for The Simpsons, Star Trek, Cheers, and It's a Bug's Life to name a few. When talking about Blake's vocals, Takoi said this: "It has the glamour while also being refreshing and tickles one's maternal, or rather paternal instinct." This pop rock fusion is blended even more with the inclusion of Sonoy playing the guitar, electric sitar, which is similar to an electric guitar that mimics the traditional Indian instrument, the sitar, and is the cause of that unique string sound in the beginning and throughout the track. And keyboard for this song, along with Terry Woods and Maxine Waters for the background vocals, and also Shibata, Hama, and Katayama coming back for bass, drums, and mixing as we talked about earlier. What I found really odd was that when recording this, the team working on the credits mistranslated the L in Blake to R, making it Karen Brake instead of Karen Blake, and thanks to Reddit user u/hi-fi Hedgehog, who actually contacted Blake asking about whether this is true or not, she responded confirming she was the vocalist, and the mistranslation from Blake to Brake was true. Pretty funny. Speaking of mistranslations, we get some rather interesting lyrics when directly translating the second verse and pre-chorus, which in the final translation is speaking from Tails' perspective about always wanting to do his best, and realizing that if he just tries to be Sonic, he'll never be able to improve himself, essentially showing just how much Tails idolizes Sonic as a good role model. But if we directly translate the lyrics from Japanese to English, well, things get a lot more, steamy, as it instead talks about Tails thinking about Sonic when he's alone and he wants to be like the man of his dreams. Since this is just a direct Google translation, I think we can chalk this up to just a rough mistranslation, but I found it pretty funny either way. I also want to say a huge thank you to Demon Death Chase, who pointed this out in the comments to me on one of my previous videos. 100% go check his channel out, as he's got some pretty sick Sonic and music content. Believe in Myself has gotten a lot of remixes throughout the years, with Sonic Adventure 2 all the way up to Team Sonic Racing, with it being Tails' Team Ultimate theme. Before we move on to Amy, I do want to show off this little excerpt from Sonoy talking about how he was surprised people like the song. I was surprised that many people like this song. Of course, I also like it myself though. I feel that I started to make this song at night, and it was produced in the morning, and it was this condition since the original demo. I found it crazy that A, Sonoy was surprised people love this song. To me, it's amazing, and it's really surprising just how it basically stayed the same throughout the whole demo process till the final product. Pretty sweet. Amy's theme, My Sweet Passion, is an incredible deviation from the rest of the rock backbone that Sonic Adventure is known for, With that being said though, I believe it was songs like this one and some others we haven't covered yet that made this soundtrack so impactful, as it was displaying the range this OST could cover, going with much more of a jazz center than anything close to rock. For My Sweet Passion, Sonoy was not directly involved, but Fumi Kumatani, who took the reins over, and you could tell she was having a blast making this. I so considered her a cheerful and cute girl anyhow, and if it's the case, I thought her theme must certainly be a song that could seem to entirely show her personality cheerfully. Every musician and staff understood Amy well, and really helped me imagine her various things in my mind. When I recorded Amy's song finally, I felt like, she'll be completed with this, she'll be born. Kumatani wrote the lyrics and composed this song. On top of showing the genre range, this song also flexes the instrument range, atop the typical guitar, drums, etc., now including percussion, horns, trumpets, trombones, and a saxophone. The percussion was done by Bashiri Johnson, while the horns and the rest of the brass instruments were done by jazz group East Fourth Horns, that worked on both Sonic Adventure 1 and 2's soundtrack, along with making their own music till 2003. My Sweet Passion also has some very iconic vocals done by Nikki Gregoroff, who is a Canadian singer that also did the backing vocals for Britney Spears, Lady Gaga, and some TV shows like Pokemon. What I found hilarious was the apparent American reaction to the lyrics that Kumatani wrote, which he says, "I did not write with such intention, but the slightly sexy lyrics have stirred the Americans. It becomes the strongest song with various meanings." Takoi then chimed in, "The adult way of singing is very attractive as well." Since this was a lot more jazzy in flavor, Sega brought in a new guitarist, bassist, drummer, and mixer, those being Mike Campbell, Will Lee, Ricky Wellman, and Roy Hendrickson, along with Atushi, also known as Sushi, Kosugi, from Beat on Beat Inc. to produce this track. I absolutely adore this song for its jazzy, pop, funk beat it has. Like much of this album, it's amazing. I also found it quite funny that the lyrics for the beginning vocals are written as ba 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 ya na 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 na. My Sweet Passion is still used to this day in the franchise, with it being most recently in Sonic at the Olympic Games among many others. And funny enough, it's actually the only consistently reoccurring theme for any character in the franchise. Speaking of departures of the rock backbone, Knuckles' theme, Unknown From Me, which I just realized while writing this, stands for Unknown From Master Emerald. Anyways, this was written and composed by Kenichi Takoi. Unknown From Me is mainly a rap and hip-hop song, but also blends some really smooth jazz and rock elements into it. Funny enough, this track actually has the most credited contributions on the whole soundtrack, really showing how many different instruments were needed to make this iconic piece. This brings back a lot of the same people from My Sweet Passion, sharing the same drummer, bassist, mixer, sound producer, and East Fourth Horns returning to do the horn pieces. This along with the new additions in the iconic rap vocals done by Dread Fox, who was actually the voice actor for Parappa in his respective video game series. While Fox didn't come back for Sonic Adventure 2, we'll get to you another time. The background vocals were done by Marlon Saunders, who also worked on the vocals for the Burning Rangers song. Guitarist Ron Lawrence, who did that absolutely nasty guitar riff in the beginning, which is one of my favorite parts of this song, was also brought in. Takoi didn't have much to say regarding this song, but Sonoy certainly did, when talking about the soprano sax solo, saying how it gives the feeling of floating, which I wonder was done intentionally because of Angel Island traditionally floating in the sky. Takoi did have a bit to say regarding the rap though. It seems that the rap with "wicked feeling" has become quite a topic. Unknown From Me is also a big part of Knuckles' persona as well, so much so that Izuka said when talking about how the vocal tracks reflect the characters' personalities, he said, "I felt that Knuckles didn't have a clearly defined personality until their theme songs came along and influenced how we see them today." I certainly agree with this, since this song, or its SA2 version, are still used to this day, with its most recent appearance of the Sonic Adventure version being in Team Sonic Racing, along with the iconic line, "Knock knock it's Knuckles," becoming a permanent meme in the fanbase, which Kumatani described when talking about the line and the rhythm of the song overall. If the body would move naturally and seemingly tongue-twisting bass are very cool. This song has the feeling of that composer's thing. Quick piece of trivia before we move on, but Unknown From Me actually shares a very similar beat to Angel Island Zone, much like how Silver's Dreams of an Absolution shares a similar beat to Green Hill. Big's theme, Lazy Days, Living in Paradise, goes closer back to that rock backbone, but a unique twist off of it going more with a tropically Jimmy Buffett-esque blend to it. Sonoy and Kumatani did the lyrics for this one, and honestly, it's by no means a bad song, but it's my least favorite out of the ones we're going to be covering today. They brought on Ted Poley for the lyrics, who is an American rock singer that was in multiple rock bands like Bone Machine, Melodica, and Tokyo Motor Fist. Sonoy talks about Poley's inclusion, saying how, "Appointing Poley is spot on." The lyrics go back and forth between Big and Froggy's perspectives, of them talking to each other with lyrics like, "Hey big guy, hey little guy," Can you tell me what's inside? Sorry, but I don't know. What? The song also has the inclusion of a piano, which was performed by Felipe Sacy, and percussionist Bashiri Johnson was included too. Sonoy and John Paris did the guitars on this, and while they were incredibly impressive, I found them quite annoying by the end of the credits. They used a slide guitar for this song, along with a multi-purpose toy percussion for this track, which Sonoy says here. The slide guitar and multi-purpose toy percussion are showing a very good taste. This song wasn't used again till Team Sonic Racing, with its inclusion of Big as a racer. I found it pretty surprising that before, it wasn't included in any game since Sonic Adventure. Although it may not be my favorite, it's still a good piece of music, so it kinda shocked me a bit. To say I love this song is an absolute understatement. I'm not sure what it is about the piano keys and the mechanical sound to it, it just makes it so good. While Gamma is the only playable character without a vocal theme. Heck, his track doesn't even have a name, it's just Theme of Gamma. Kumatani and Tokoi composed this track together, and since it's mainly computer-based, only Kumatani is credited with programming the song, along with Hirokazu Akashi mixing it. I think this song, although not being a vocal track, 100% characterizes Gamma, with this very upbeat yet sad track with the inclusion of the piano keys, blended with a wave of joy in the track. It's really a banger. Although not composing this one, Sonoy spoke about the track saying, "When I listen to this song, I feel that he's a robot but has a heart." And on a much more somber note, Tokoi spoke about how this song exudes loneliness, saying, "Somewhere lonely, but there is salvation." Kinda depressing, but it certainly fits the vibe of Gamma's story. I love this track. Whenever I hear it, all I can think of is basically every cutscene Eggman is in where it's like, "Oh, I fucked you guys over again." When thinking about making this, which again, doesn't have a title except Theme of Dr. Eggman, Sonoy had this to say. "After making this piece, I also tried to create humorous Eggman music like the present on, but after all, this was more suitable for his mood at the time." Sonoy arranged this piece along with doing the guitar work, while Tokoi did the programming and Akashi mixed it. Out of all the instrumental themes, this track always will hold a place for me, as it perfectly captures that upbeat yet cunning villainous energy of Eggman, all while keeping that rock-centric feeling to it. Funny enough, when Sonoy was asked what songs he enjoys performing live from Sonic Adventure, this is what he had to say. "I held a show called the Sonic Adventure Music Experience in 2016 to celebrate Sonic's 25th anniversary. I performed several songs from the series live, and I didn't think many people would be that excited. I had fun performing Theme of Dr. Eggman." My absolute favorite response was from Tokoi, who when asked about his thoughts on the track, just said, "Until we meet again, my friends." Referencing Eggman's trolly nature throughout Sonic Adventure, of just rolling up, clowning on Sonic and the gang, quipping a one-liner and dipping. Ugh, I love it. The song does get overshadowed quite a bit by its SA2 theme, Eggman, which ends up taking the mantle for Eggman's main theme going forward. Tikal's theme is just another one of those tracks that's just absolutely beautiful in my opinion. God, I love it so much. I feel like I've been saying this about every frickin' track that we've covered, but it's just so great and perfectly encapsulates Tikal's whole character in Sonic Adventure, really feeling the sadness, mystical, and heavenly vibe her character gives off, making a very emotional final product. Fumitami programmed and composed this track while Akashi did the mixing for it. What's really cool is the in-game track misses out on these really atmospheric chants that go along with the rest of the song. Kumatani talks about Tikal's track here. Actually, this is also a version unlistenable in the game. It is a piece that I made valuing things like all the environments surrounding Tikal and her own hidden heart. It seemed the other composers were incredibly envious of her work on this track, with Tokoi saying, "The back view of Miss Kumatani, who kept staring at Tikal's illustration and let the image expand, was impressive. I'm envious of Miss Kumatani, who is also good at such composition method." While Tikal has shown up in the future games as a little Easter egg, since she can't show up in the story because, well, she's dead, her theme did get remixed in Sonic Battle for the Holy Summit Adventure Field, which was then remixed again in Sonic Advance 3 for the Ultra Emerald stage. Ah yes, everyone's favorite little blue guys. The theme of Chow, as called in the soundtrack, was done, arranged, and programmed by Fumi Kumatani, and once again mixed by Akashi. This song is such a banger, with its super upbeat and cheery vibe due to the trumpets and fanfare. The music, along with their adorable appearance, really helped cement the Chow as a mainstay in the Sonic fanbase. I mean, how can you say no to this? Sonoy described it perfectly as, "I think it can express the things like cuteness, loveliness, and the like of Chow well too." I would 100% agree, as it's hard for me not to pop into the Chow Garden just to hear this play for a bit with its upbeat trumpets. Excellent track. It seemed that Kumatani took some of her inspiration from one of her previous projects, as she says, "If it happens that there are people who say Nights was imagined after listening to this, that will be an honor for me." because I made it very aware of Knights Nightopian. If you haven't played Knights like myself, apparently Nightopians were these little fairy guys that were basically Sega's first crack at a virtual pet simulator, before the Chow Garden of course, where you could raise them in Nightopia and let them grow throughout the game, much like Chow. Chaos. Personally, my favorite villain in the franchise tied with Metal Sonic. Sonoy and the gang gave Chaos 3 different themes depending on when you run into him in the story. The first being versions 0, 2, and 4, going with these really awesome and intense guitar riffs, along with those booming drums that really make the feeling of a tense and dangerous showdown that especially leaves a fantastic first impression when starting the game. Sonoy did the guitar work and arranged the first 2 boss themes. He actually had a lot of trouble making a theme for him, as he says here. I was quite troubled with the battle music for Chaos. I looked for a solution to the concept that united the boss battles, but in the end, I tried to decide on this sort of approach of big beat style. I intended to show the tension of suddenly encountering a characterless fellow. What I absolutely loved while researching all this was the amount of banter and good chemistry between the composers. Like here, Sonoy asked them which version of Chaos did Takoi and Kumatani like the most, and they both said 0, where Sonoy just roasts them with this line, "Is that because you can clear it right away?" As for his version 6, it's a bit slower with even more of that sweet electric guitar that Sonoy can make go wild, along with keeping the same tense and dangerous feeling of the first theme. What I always liked here was the part closer to the end of the track, where Sonoy switches up the beat on this. It always came off as a great touch in my eyes. Sonoy is quoted here saying how, "I'm again doing strange things like trying to decide on a 6/8 for the melody based off of a 7/8 beat. There is a fact that it also is the last boss playing with Knuckles, and this becomes a composition that mixed Knuckles' theme together." What I found crazy was Sonoy's work hours also when making music for the game, and especially the version 6 Chaos theme. He said, "I was very busy in meetings during the day, and the music composition started when it turned night, and was completed in the early morning." The work ethic and passion Sonoy and the other two had for Sonic Adventure is absolutely unparalleled, and it truly shows in my opinion. As for the theme of Perfect Chaos called Perfect Chaos Revival, which this time was arranged by Takoi, shedding the rock style of the first 2 themes, and going with a much more darker and scary orchestral theme that plays during the second half of the Perfect Chaos fight. While the other tracks haven't been used in anything since Sonic Adventure, the Perfect Chaos track was most recently used in Sonic Generations on the second half of the rematch against Perfect Chaos. In movies, the main theme song plays at a climax point, particularly during a scene where one might say something like, "This is it. I really wanted to include dramatic elements, so I had the main theme June composed play at the end after defeating the boss. Open Your Heart is my favorite track." Damn, that opening gets me every time. Anyways, that excerpt was said by Takashi Iizuka when speaking about the sound and atmosphere the team was going for in Sonic Adventure, and to say they hit a home run is an absolute understatement. Open Your Heart is not only the theme of the whole game, but is one of the most iconic songs in all of gaming, and makes for one of the most hype final battles in gaming, even 23 years later. The song was performed and written by Sonoy and Takoi, but most importantly, was performed by Crush 40, the legendary in-house Sega duo consisting of Sonoy himself on guitar, with lead singer Johnny Gioli, who is an American rock musician that before Crush 40 was a part of bands like Hardline, Axel Rudy Pell, and Accomplice. Takoi had this to say about Gioli. "Johnny is good. The intonation is perfect with his sharp way of singing for that. I think it's a completion typical of a main theme." I don't think I need to say much about how awesome of a track this is, so much so I listen to it consistently in my everyday life. Crush 40 was dedicated to making this a complete banger. So much so that Sonoy tried some crazy stuff to get some of the sounds you hear in this song. For the last part of the song, I screwed an electric screwdriver with the guitar. The recording with Johnny was tough in the tight schedule as well, but perfect. He put a freaking electric screwdriver into his guitar to make this track. That is insane! Jesus, talk about dedication for getting the sound just right. Also, quick shout out to Death Chase again for mentioning this to me before I went to research for the video. As for the backup instrumentals, Shibata, Hama, and Katayama were brought in to play bass, drums, and mix the song. From the interviews and such, it seemed like Open Your Heart had a lot of hardships with getting everything just right for the final product and blending ideas in, as Sonoy says here. "We worked hard at the song's melody and lyrics." And this quote from Kumatani also said, "The song matched the keyword cool, but I know lots of hardships involved in this song. Hurrah for the birth of Open Your Heart." At the end of the day, it all paid off because not only is this song amazing and the cherry on top of a phenomenal soundtrack turning a splash into a tidal wave of an impact on the gaming industry, but helped shape what Sonic would be in the 3D realm and also make Crush 40 a permanent fan favorite in the franchise to this day, even to the point where it's almost a letdown if they don't have a track in the upcoming games. Their most recent appearance being their return after a while off, with Team Sonic Racing in the track Green Light Ride. Hopefully we get more Crush 40 in the next mainline game. Open Your Heart has gotten not 1, not 2, not 3, but 13 different versions and remixes over the years, with its most recent appearance being 2020's Sonic at the Olympic Games mobile game for iOS and Android, and its most recent mainline appearance being in Sonic Generations for the first half of the Perfect Chaos fight. Well guys, that's going to be it for the development of the vocal tracks of Sonic Adventure. Join me in the next part where we go over the level, hub themes, and other fantastic music that made Sonic Adventure what it is today. I hope I was able to give you guys some new knowledge to go home with, and if I did, let me know what you found the most interesting in the comments. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed it, as this game and soundtrack hold a very special place to my heart, so it was a blast being able to research this and discuss it with everyone. Thanks again for watching, and if you enjoyed, make sure to like and subscribe, and with that, I will see you in the next video.